She fell 6 miles, no parachute, no plane, and she opened her eyes. Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're looking at the people history tried, repeatedly, to kill, and just couldn't. We're talking about historical figures who faced impossible odds, poison, bullets, bombs, bears, and even gravity itself, and simply refused to die.
Okay, let's start with a mind-boggling number, 33,330. That is the exact number of feet a woman fell from the sky with no parachute, only to open her eyes when she hit the ground.
Now, this is a true story, but you know what? We are going to leave this mystery hanging until the very end of our explainer. Because to truly appreciate how someone survives a 6-mile freefall, we first need to look at some other staggering historical survivals where the stakes just keep escalating.
Story 1. The woman the ocean couldn't keep.
Meet Violet Jessop, an early 1900s stewardess who simply could not be sunk. Let's trace her career really quick. In 1911, she's working aboard the RMS Olympic, the biggest ship in the world at the time, when it collides with a British warship. The Olympic survives and so does Violet. Fine. Coincidence, right? Ships crash sometimes. But then in 1912, she gets transferred to the Olympic's sister ship. You might have heard of it. It's called the Titanic. You know how that one ends, but Violet doesn't. She is ordered into a lifeboat, handed a baby to look after, and is rowed away as the supposedly unsinkable ship goes under. And if that wasn't enough, most people would take the hint, but she takes a promotion. In 1916, she's on Titanic's other sister ship, the Britannic, when it hits a mine. She jumps from the deck, gets sucked under the ship, cracks her skull on the keel, and yeah, she survives that too.
So, that is 3 of the biggest ships ever built and 3 massive maritime disasters. Yet one woman confidently walked away from all of them. I mean, if Violet Jessop ever offered to captain your boat, frankly, I'd take a flight. She had absolutely zero fear of the ocean.
Story 2. Mauled, buried, and still walking.
Let's transition over to the grueling American frontier in 1823 and look at the visceral survival of frontiersman Hugh Glass. While scouting near the Grand River, Glass surprises a grizzly bear with her cubs, and this goes about exactly as well as you'd expect. The bear viciously mauls him. His throat is torn open, ribs exposed, leg broken. His own hunting party finds him, decides he isn't going to make it, and leaves 2 men behind to wait for him to die and bury him. But he wouldn't die, so deciding it was just a waste of time, they abandon him. They take his rifle, take his knife, and leave him for dead in the wilderness.
But instead of giving up, Glass methodically goes to work. With absolutely 0 weapons, 0 food, and only 1 working leg, he literally sets his own broken bone. He packs his open wounds with moss to stop the infection, and then, driven by the sheer will to live, he just starts to crawl toward the nearest fort.
It is absolutely astounding. He crawls approximately 200 miles over the course of roughly 6 weeks. To survive, he eats berries, digs up roots, and, according to legend, even eats a rattlesnake that he managed to kill with just a rock. When he finally reaches help, the very first thing he does is go looking for the 2 men who abandoned him. And trust me, it wasn't to thank them.
Story 3. The unluckiest, luckiest man alive.
Now we shift gears to a catastrophic historical impossibility from 1945 involving a businessman named Tsutomu Yamaguchi. On August 6th, Yamaguchi is on a business trip in Hiroshima about 3 kilometers from ground zero when the first atomic bomb detonates. The blast ruptures his eardrums, burns half his body, and throws him into a nearby field. Miraculously, he survives. And the very next day, he travels home to Nagasaki. 3 days later, on August 9th, he is actually standing in his boss's office, literally describing the sheer scale of the Hiroshima bomb when the sky turns white. The second bomb detonates right over him. Because of this, Tsutomu Yamaguchi became the only officially recognized person to have survived both atomic bombings. I mean, if the universe tried to take this man out, it used 2 nuclear weapons and still went 0 for 2. Despite his massive injuries and enduring 2 atomic blasts back-to-back, he miraculously lived for another 65 years, finally passing away at the age of 93.
Story 4. The man who, allegedly, wouldn't go down.
This is the legendary, purely chaotic survival of mystic advisor Grigory Rasputin against the deliberate assassination in December 1916. Now, quick disclaimer, this legend comes from the unconfirmed accounts of the very men who killed him. But the escalation here is wild. Russian nobles serve him cakes and wine laced with enough heavy cyanide to kill several men. Rasputin eats it all and just keeps talking. Panicking, they shoot him in the chest at close range. He collapses, but when they check the body, Rasputin allegedly opens his eyes and lunges at them. So they shoot him 2 more times, beat him, and finally throw him into the freezing Neva River.
But here is the crazy part. After enduring heavy poison and bullets that allegedly should have killed several men, the official cause of death was somehow just listed as drowning. Whether every single detail of that night is true or just history exaggerating, his death was so chaotic that historians are still arguing over it well over 100 years later.
And finally, Story 5, 33,330 feet.
Which brings us right back to our explosive opening mystery. We've seen people survive sinking ships, bears, and bombs, but what happens when the enemy is gravity itself? On January 26, 1972, flight attendant Vesna Vulovic is on JAT Flight 367 over Czechoslovakia at 33,330 feet. Suddenly, a cargo bomb detonates. The plane rips apart in mid-air. Vesna is thrown out into the open sky, plummeting into an impossible freefall.
She is falling with no parachute, no plane, just 6 miles of empty air between her and the ground. She hits a heavily forested, snow-covered mountainside. And that incredible combination of the trees, the thick snow, and the wreckage of the plane miraculously cushions her fall. It provided just enough protection for her to survive the absolute highest drop imaginable. She spends months in a coma, has to completely relearn how to walk, but she makes it, living for another 44 years.
To this day, Guinness World Records officially recognizes her for surviving the highest fall without a parachute in recorded history. Out of everyone we've looked at in this explainer, she fell the farthest, had the least protection, and still managed to make it out alive.
As we wrap up this explainer on surviving sinking ships, vicious bears, nuclear bombs, and 6-mile falls, I want to leave you with this. What does it actually take for a human being to outlast impossible odds? When poison, bullets, predators, and gravity itself try and fail, we really have to wonder, are some people just fundamentally built to outlast history's attempts to bury them? Thank you for exploring these incredible stories with me.